You are reading this sentence. Right now, in this moment, you are certain of one thing above almost everything else: that you are here, that you are present, that the experience of being you is happening live, in real time, as it occurs. The thoughts forming in your mind feel immediate. The sensations in your body feel current. The moment feels, with absolute and unquestionable conviction, like now. Not a recording, not a replay, not a signal that left its source some time ago and is only just arriving. Now, live. The present tense, unmediated, direct. This certainty is so deep it is not even experienced as a belief. It is experienced as the ground of all experience. You are here, you are now. The present moment is where you live. But here is the question I want you to sit with before we go any further. What if every single thing you are experiencing right now, this sentence, this room, the feeling of your body in the chair, every sensation and perception and thought that constitutes your present moment is not happening now? What if your experience of now is assembled inside your skull from signals that left their sources anywhere from a fraction of a second to several seconds in the past, stitched together into a false simultaneity by a brain that cannot afford to show you reality as it actually arrives, and so shows you instead a constructed, edited, time-shifted, smoothed-over version of the world, a version that feels like now but is, by any physical measure, already gone? What are you actually experiencing? Let me tell you something. The question of consciousness and time is usually given to philosophers, and the philosophers have done interesting things with it, but I want to come at it from the other direction. I want to come at it from physics and neuroscience, from the actual measurable facts about how information travels through physical systems, because those facts are strange enough that you do not need to add any philosophical speculation to make the conclusion disturbing. The conclusion is disturbing on the physics alone. If you want to understand how the universe actually works, not just how it looks, but how it works, hit that subscribe button. Let's find things out together. Let's start with light, because light is where the delay begins and where most people are willing to accept it. You look at the sun and you are seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. You look at the nearest star beyond our sun and you are seeing it as it was 4 years ago. You look at the Andromeda galaxy and you are seeing it as it was 2.5 million years ago. These delays are large and people accept them without too much distress because the objects are far away. Far away means old news. Fine. But now look at your own hand. Hold it up. Look at it. The light reflecting from the surface of your hand travels to your eye at 186,000 miles per second, which means the delay between your hand and your retina is so small, a fraction of a nanosecond, as to be effectively zero for any practical purpose. Your hand is right there. The light is essentially instantaneous. So looking at your hand is as close to real time as perception gets, right? Stay with me, because this is where the story starts. The light hits your retina and triggers a photochemical reaction in the rod and cone cells. That reaction generates an electrical signal. The signal travels down the optic nerve at somewhere between 0.5 and 120 meters per second, depending on the fiber. Nerve signals are not light. They are electrochemical waves propagating through biological tissue, and they are millions of times slower than the light that triggered them. The signal travels from your eye to the lateral geniculate nucleus in the thalamus, then to the primary visual cortex at the back of your brain, then forward through a cascade of visual processing areas, V1, V2, V4, the ventral stream, the dorsal stream, each stage extracting different features, passing results forward, building progressively more abstract representations of what the eye detected. By the time a conscious perception of your hand is assembled, by the time the thing you experience as seeing your hand actually occurs, approximately 80 to 100 milliseconds have passed, a tenth of a second. Your visual experience is a tenth of a second old before you have it. Do you see what happens? You are not seeing your hand. You are seeing a neural representation of your hand constructed from signals that left your hand a tenth of a second ago, processed and assembled and rendered into experience by a brain that is doing something much more complicated than simply receiving an image. Now here is the analogy I want you to hold. A television broadcast has a processing delay. The signal is captured, compressed, transmitted, received, decoded, and displayed, and by the time you see the image, it is a fraction of a second old. You do not experience this as looking at the past because the delay is consistent, and your brain has no reference point for what undelayed reality would look like. Your visual experience is exactly like this. You are watching a broadcast. The broadcast is your brain's best construction of what the world looked like approximately a tenth of a second ago. You have never seen the present. You have only ever seen the recent past, rendered as now. Let's be honest about what this means. Vision is the fastest of your senses, and it is already a tenth of a second behind. Touch is slower. The signal from your fingertip has to travel up your arm, up your spinal cord to your brain, and the further the signal source from your brain, the longer the delay. The sensation you feel in your toe when you stub it travels roughly 1.5 meters to your brain at nerve conduction velocities that put the delay at somewhere around 70 to 100 milliseconds just for the signal to arrive before any cortical processing. Your toe is further from now than your eye is. Your body is not a single point in time. It is a collection of signals arriving from different distances at different speeds, all of them in the past by different amounts. Now I want to take this deeper because the brain does not simply receive these delayed signals and display them. The brain does something far stranger. It lies. Not maliciously, necessarily. The brain takes these signals arriving at different times from different distances and it synchronizes them. It holds some signals back and rushes others forward, adjusting the internal timing so that your experience of seeing your hand move and feeling your hand move and hearing the sound your hand makes when it taps a table all seem to occur at the same moment. This is called temporal binding. Your brain is a time editor, cutting and splicing the inputs from your senses into a coherent, synchronized, apparently simultaneous experience that does not reflect the actual arrival times of the signals at all. This is the part that keeps me up at night. The neuroscientist Benjamin Libet performed a set of experiments in the 1980s that produced results so uncomfortable that they are still argued about today. He asked subjects to make a simple, spontaneous wrist movement whenever they felt like it, and to note the position of a clock hand at the moment they felt the urge to move. He also recorded the electrical activity in their motor cortex. What he found was this: the brain showed a characteristic buildup of electrical activity, the readiness potential, approximately 550 milliseconds before the movement. The subjects reported feeling the conscious intention to move approximately 200 milliseconds before the movement. The unconscious brain preparation preceded the conscious decision by about 350 milliseconds. The decision you experience as a free choice, arising in the present moment of your conscious will, appears to be a report of a process that was already underway in your brain more than half a second before you were aware of it. Let's be honest about the implication. The experience of deciding, the felt sense of being the author of your own actions, arising in the present, freely choosing, may be your brain's awareness of a decision that your brain had already made. The present moment of choice may be a notification, not an initiation. You may be informed of what you are about to do slightly after the doing has been set in motion, and you experience the notification as the cause. Do you see what happens? The self that decides may always be slightly behind the brain that acts. You are, in some measurable neurological sense, a passenger who experiences the journey as driving. Now here is the uncomfortable implication, and I want to state it plainly. There is no moment at which you perceive reality directly. Every perception is a construction. Every sensation is a processed signal from the past. Every thought is a cascade of electrochemical activity that was initiated before you were aware of it. The present moment, the now that feels so immediate, so certain, so undeniably real, is a model. It is the brain's best current hypothesis about the state of the world, assembled from delayed, incomplete, pre-processed information, backdated to feel current, synchronized across senses that operate on different time scales, and presented to consciousness as live experience. You have never experienced the present. You have only ever experienced the brain's reconstruction of the very recent past, labeled now. And there is a further depth to this that physics adds, which I find genuinely disorienting every time I think about it carefully. The neurons that perform this construction, the cells in your visual cortex and auditory cortex and somatosensory cortex that assemble your experience, are themselves physical objects operating under the same constraints as everything else. The electrochemical signals passing between them are subject to the speed of ion channels, the geometry of axons, the thermodynamics of synaptic transmission. The construction of your experience of now is itself a physical process happening in time, taking time, subject to delay. The experience of the present moment is manufactured by a process that is not in the present moment. There is no level at which you reach the actual now. Every layer you peel back reveals another layer of processing, another delay, another construction. The present is not at the bottom of the stack. There is no bottom of the stack. Now the visceral thing, the thing in your body right now. Snap your fingers in front of your face. You saw it and heard it and felt it simultaneously. They all seem to happen at the same instant. But the light from the snap reached your eye almost instantly. The sound took several milliseconds to travel from your fingers to your ear. The pressure wave from the snap traveled through your hand at the speed of nerve conduction. These signals arrived at your brain at genuinely different times. Your brain held some back, nudged others forward, and presented you with a single unified snap. Simultaneous, immediate, real. That simultaneity is not in the world, it is in your brain. The world delivered 3 separate signals at 3 separate times. Your brain edited them into one moment. Every experience of simultaneity you have ever had is an editorial decision made by neural processing you have no access to and no control over. The world does not come to you already organized in time. You organize it after the fact, and then forget that you did. Here is the reframe, and I want to be exact about it because the precision is what saves it from being merely depressing. The constructed, time-shifted, editorially unified experience of now that your brain produces is not a defect. It is the most sophisticated information processing system we have ever encountered. The brain is doing something extraordinary, taking a flood of asynchronous, incomplete, noisy signals from a dozen different sensory systems operating on different timescales and assembling from them a coherent, stable, navigable model of reality that is accurate enough to let you catch a ball, read a face, understand a sentence, feel love. The slight delay, the temporal binding, the smoothing and editing, all of it is the cost of coherence. Raw, unprocessed, unedited sensory data would be noise. The brain trades immediacy for clarity, and it makes the right trade. You are not receiving the present. You are being given something better, a stable, integrated, meaningful model of what the present probably is, good enough to live in, built at the speed of thought by the most complex object in the known universe. The present you experience is not real in the way a clock reading is real. It is real in the way a story is real, assembled, shaped, given meaning, made navigable by the telling. And you are both the story and the teller. You have never been in the present. You have always been in the story your brain tells about it. If this twisted your brain a little bit, good. That means it's working. I'll see you in the next one.